power chords on the guitar are awesome. You can create cool riffs and songs and parts without having to think about any music theory. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. If you don't know what a power chord is, I'm going to give you a quick overview right now, but this lesson really isn't about the theory behind power chords. We have other lessons on that, including our music theory series, which talks about chords and power chords, that you can check out if you really want to dive into it. This lesson is more about how to use them in a cool way, but I want to give you at least a little bit of explanation about them in case you don't know anything about power chords. So most basic chords are made up of at least 3 notes. And your 2 most basic type of chords are a major chord or a minor chord. So for example, here's a G major. Here's a G minor. Well, a power chord is different. A power chord's only made up of 2 notes. And that's because it takes out what's called the third in the chord. And the third is just referring to an interval. So for example, this G major chord, I have what's called the root, the perfect fifth, another root, and then I have a major third right here. And this major third is what makes this chord major. And then for a G minor, I have the root, perfect fifth, the root again, so the exact same, but this major third is brought down half a step, and that's called a minor third, so that gives it its minor sound. So you can hear the difference. Major, happy and bright, minor, sadder and darker. And again, if you want to dive into chord theory, check out our music theory series where I go in depth on all of this. But for this lesson, all you really need to know is that a power chord is removing that third. So you still have the root and the perfect fifth, and then you can have the root again if you want, but you're not playing that major third or the minor third. So this is a power chord. This is a G power chord. Just the root, perfect fifth, and you can have the root again, or you can leave that other root off and just have the root and perfect fifth. And a power chord is also called a 5 chord. So if you see something written out like G5, that's a power chord. And the nice thing about power chords is that they're neither major or minor because they don't have that major third or the minor third in it that give it the major sound or the minor sound. That means you can use them as a major chord or a minor chord, or not even really think about it too much and just take this shape and move it all around. So I could take this G5 and just move it around and come up with cool riffs. To do that with a major chord, for example, that's going to sound pretty strange. I mean, you could do something like that. You could make a cool part with it, but it's a lot harder to use a major chord or a minor chord with that third in it because our ears are so used to hearing those intervals in a certain way. But with the power chords, you have a lot of freedom to just move them all around and create cool riffs. And that's really what this lesson is about, that you can think of them in a guitaristic way instead of thinking about the music theory behind it, and just take that shape, move it all around, find cool riffs, make cool parts, write cool songs, not worry about the theory, and you can have some really cool sounding song or riff that if you dove into the theory would actually be kind of complicated, but you don't have to think about it that way. So again, a power chord, the most common ways to play them are with the 6th-string root and a 5th string root. The one that I just showed you as a G5 had the 6th-string root, so since this is a G note, that's why it's called a G5. Whatever your root note is the name of the chord. So for that G5, I had my first finger on the 6th string, 3rd fret, my 3rd finger on the 5th string, 5th fret. That right there is a power chord. Or I can add in this note, like I was saying, which is another G note on the 4th string, 5th fret, and have this note. And then the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings are muted out. And the way you do that is just with your first finger, you play that note that's on the 6th string, and then you lightly rest your finger over the rest of the strings so that all you hear is this note under your first finger for this G5 in the 3rd fret, and the rest are just muted out. You get this sound. You don't want this sound. When you're actually pressing those notes down, you just want to mute them out. And you can actually, when you're playing with these 2 fingers to play the power chord, is with your 4th finger, if you're using this finger, is mute out the 3rd string with the back of your 4th finger as well. There's lots of different ways you can play it. This isn't really a technique lesson. I don't want to spend all my time on technique for this. There's lots of different ways you can mute strings out and hold the chord. So you're going to have to figure out what works best for you. But just like a bar chord, you're going to want, in most situations, your thumb behind your first finger as an anchor down towards the middle of the neck, right here, and your wrist away from the fretboard. It's going to be hard to play it like this unless you have really big hands, and some people do and are able to, or they could even reach their thumb over and play it if they want to. But for the most part, if you're just starting out learning these, this would be a more proper way to hold this chord. So now with this chord, whether I play the voicing where I'm just fretting 2 notes, or whether I'm playing the voicing where I'm fretting 3 notes, and it's still just 2 notes because this note and this note are the same. They're just what's called an octave apart. So it's still considered a 2-note chord. So with either of those shapes, I can just move that around anywhere up the fretboard, looking for cool sounds that go together. That shape stays the same no matter where I am. So no matter where I move it, that shape stays the exact same. So just start with that. Take that chord, just move it around, try to come up with cool little riffs. And like I was saying, you don't have to think about music theory. You don't have to think about whether you're playing a major chord or minor chord. If these chords go together, just use your ear. And then you can play a power chord. Like I was saying, another common way to play it is with the 5th string root. So this was with the 6th string root, playing that G5. I can play with the 5th string root, and I just take that exact shape and move it down towards the floor, a string with each finger. So I take this shape and just move it down towards the floor. So now my first finger's on the 5th string, and in this case it's in the 3rd fret, which is a C, so this is a C power chord, C5. My 3rd finger's on the 4th string, which is in the 5th fret in this case. So that would be root, perfect 5th again. And then you can add in your 4th finger on the 3rd string, which in this case for the C5 would be another C note, and that would be on the 3rd string, 5th fret. So it's just this exact same shape that we played with the G5. And then again, you can move that anywhere. That shape stays the same no matter what frets you're playing it in. And again, you could take this and make a cool riff or a cool part of a song for it. Just moving it anywhere. And then you can combine the different power chords. So you have the one with the 6th string root, the one with the 5th string root. You can combine them. And again, you can just play that shape up and down the fretboard, combining different power chords in different places on the fretboard with different roots, either on the 6th string or 5th string, and just come up with parts that sound cool. So to end this, I'm just going to show a few examples of some riffs that I came up with power chords, some clean sounds, some dirty sounds, just to show you how versatile they are and how cool they can sound in different situations. And these aren't riffs that I spent a lot of time on. I just quickly threw them together. And that's a cool thing about power chords. You can quickly come up with different parts just by moving the shapes around, just by connecting different shapes and having a lot of fun with it. So thanks for watching, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and keep moving forward.